Okay, students, I just wanted to open up your assignment sheet and talk about this next paper, the rhetorical analysis. So I'm opening up on my end. It looks a little bit different. You should be able to find it under the module that says rhetorical analysis in content, or you can go up to course activities and assignments and click on rhetorical analysis. So here's what you will find when you do that. This next paper is called a rhetorical analysis. Your purpose is to analyze an author's use of rhetoric within a text and come to a conclusion on how effective or not it was in that use. So all of your I provided some articles here for you to analyze. You may pick any of these three, but not another one. I'm seeing a typo. But it needs to be one of these three. They are all about literacy. That is partly because I'm trying to give you some help for the next paper where we will also talk about literacy. So I wanted to give you a head start on that. And you might have some good thoughts about literacy and what we're talking about here. That's all great. But keep in mind that that's not what your focus should be on. You shouldn't be talking about your thoughts about literacy as encouraged by these articles. You should be talking about the actual articles and the rhetoric that they used in that article. This is not a paper I necessarily pick. This is one that, I do, but this is one that I've been instructed that I have to teach to first-year writing students. Any college you go to throughout all of Texas, you will have to do a rhetorical analysis in a first-year writing class. So I think the reason that is a requirement is because it's really helpful in teaching you what are good strategies in persuasive writing if you can analyze that in somebody else's writing. So that's what you're going to be doing essentially, is analyzing someone else's use of persuasive strategies. So anyway, you'll want to start by picking one of these and reading it carefully. I'm not going to have you turn in an annotation of the articles, but that would be a really good idea, as if you go through and mark up, okay, here's where I see logos, here's where I see ethos, maybe put your questions, what am I missing, who do I think the specific audience is, and all that as well, okay? So you'll want a good understanding of the article and the use of rhetoric in the text. And every single time I assign this, I get students who come back and say there's not one of something. There's just no use of ethos, there's no use of logos, there's no use of pathos, whatever it is. There's no logical fallacy. There is something you can make a case for every single one of those. So if that's your answer, it's just not in the text. No, you're going to get a 0 for that portion of the paper. And that's not going to be an acceptable answer. So really, reach out if you're really struggling to find a use of it, but it is in there, so just keep that in mind. This is going to be 1,000 words. That is one of our longer papers. I don't think the longer papers are always the papers where you include quotes. Your writing should be, I can't remember what the thing is, but maybe it's 70%, I can't remember. Your thoughts and analysis is a good portion of this. Another, 25% is going to be quotes and thoughts from the actual text. So that, I know that 1,000 words seems like a lot, but remember, as we learned about how to, correctly integrate quotes, that gets taken up pretty quickly when you include quotes in a paper. So just keep that in mind. And also be aware that for each of these, so logos, ethos, and pathos, you need to have a separate paragraph that discusses each of those. So that also kind of ups your paper pretty quickly. If you have an introduction, a paragraph that discusses each of these, maybe you have a paragraph that discusses the audience and purpose. You should talk about a logical fallacy somewhere. I mean, that's really getting you up there pretty quickly. So also keep in mind, 1,000 words, you can go beyond that. That's just what I'm saying. That's the minimum amount that I think you need in order to meet all the requirements of the paper. Okay, so the paper is due April 30th on D2L. For this paper, you're not going to submit anything to D2L beforehand. What I'm encouraging you to do instead is to go to the Writing Center. And you can do that anytime in the process of this paper. If after watching this video you're like, I am so lost, go to the Writing Center. They have an online writing lab, so you don't need to actually go into the building. But there's a few steps you need to take to get signed up, but go there. And you should get some pretty helpful insights. And I will say I will also accept if you meet with our Writing Center tutor Alicia that's embedded in our class. That will also count for that grade. Yeah. So that will be your feedback. Here's what I'm looking for in the paper. So not surprising, formatting. I want to make sure you're still including correct formatting guidelines. All in-text citations are properly formatted. Rhetoric, I need to see that you understand each of the rhetorical strategies. And so that's going to mean you show me that somewhere in your text. Don't just drop in the term ethos and move on. You don't need to have a lot of explanation, but you need to assume your reader has no idea what ethos is and make sure you explain that. Analysis. So that's the second part of this paper, an analysis. That means you're thinking about not just how ethos is used in the paper, but how effective that use is. And there's no right or wrong answer. I don't have an answer key somewhere that says, oh, well, these are the ways ethos is used in this article. It's more about what you think. And you have great ideas, so just share those in your paper, and you should be fine. You also want to consider the audience and purpose, and that will really inform how effective the use of rhetoric is. Okay, just like we've been learning, the paper should be organized, a clear thesis, an introduction and conclusion, and transitions throughout. There should be evidence in the text. I need to see some sort of quote for most of them. Now, the one thing I will say is sometimes it's hard to quote ethos. You can, but if you can't find an actual quote, but you just can explain the use of ethos in the text, that's fine. But you should be able to quote at least something for logos and pathos. And then you need to discuss a logical fallacy in the text, and that can be like, oh, it's almost this logical fallacy, but it's not quite. It doesn't need to be a super big part of the paper necessarily, but you also, like the rhetorical strategies, you're just showing me that you understand what logical fallacies are, that they're an ineffective argument in the paper, and that they hurt the strength of the articles. Basically what you're showing me, you know. All right, that's it for me. Please reach out if you have any questions, or like I said, you can start by reaching out to the Writing Center if that's where you need to go. And yeah, have a good day.